So nice to meet you all. Thank you so much for inviting me here to this awesome conference. I have water with me, just in case. I have this thing, so we'll see what happens. Just to give you guys a little context for what to expect from this talk, there's going to be a little introduction to who I am. I don't want to spend too long on that. But I will follow up with a little introduction to the surprise business number one that I ended up making or starting. And then an introduction to business number two. And then finally, lessons. Why are we here if not to learn? Also, I'm really obsessed with learning, so you all have to learn something. I'm going to test you later. So, good, you're alive. That's great news. Okay, so, the title of my talk, University in Real Life. Yes, you all have to learn at university, but real life is the best kind of learning you can do. By the way, I should also say I've drunk a lot of coffee today. So if you can't understand me, would just somebody do that to slow me down, and I will try and slow down. So the things that excite me. My background, my name is Daniel Hirschmann. Hi, by the way. I'm South African. That means I come from South Africa. And I studied fine arts. I was really into building sculptures back in the day, way back in the day. This is a long time ago, in the 90s. Jesus. Just saying it out loud, it's a little scary. I then was very fortunate to do my master's at the New York University Interactive Telecommunications program, where I focused on this area called physical computing, tangible computing, building physical objects in the real world that you can interact with, very much like we just saw in the last speaker. And then I dabbled a little bit in Italy. I was very fortunate to spend some time there, continuing this world of physical computing, and then finally ended up playing with some interactive architecture in London. And then realizing that really what I wanted to do is continue not working there, but creating something of my own. So, the three things that really ended up exciting me, like the common threads that I found to be meaningful in my practices, the first one being experience. Experience. To experience something, to share an experience, to create an experience that people will recall and remember with happiness, sadness, whatever, to create an emotion through an experience. That is a very powerful thing and something that I look to experience myself and look to share with others. Experimentation. How do you create awesome experiences other than by experimenting to discover the things that might actually be meaningful to you or others? That previous slide, the edges of technology, that place where technology meets something else, or the horizon between two things, that's something that's really interesting and only possible to explore through experimentation. And finally, education. To learn. I've already said that, I'm so sorry. But education is very, very important. Your own education, learning for yourself, sharing with others so they can learn. Just remember, our grandparents have no idea what we're talking about today. How can we help them learn? So, seems to be a little, I have to read it over there. So I just wanted to give you a little sense of, I call myself a little bit of an accidental entrepreneur, right? I didn't expect to make a business. I wanted to be an artist, making sculptures on the French Riviera, blah, 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 all that romantic crap. But what I realized was maybe I have to do something about the things that I'm excited about in order to manifest whatever that future is I want to live. So this is a hint of the mindset that ended up creating a business. And I'm going to read it really fast, I hope. I want to make art, build awesome projects. There seems to be an industry that makes big, crazy artworks for big name artists. But what about me? What about the smaller art projects, design commissions? But by the same token, what about the brands? Why don't they have someone who can help them create ambitious, crazy projects? How cool would it be to do projects I love and use other people's budgets to do it? Other people's money. Oh, but then I'd have to hire people, and we'd have to get regular work. But we can make sure that it's always great work, or can we? I don't know. Let's see what happens. Is this risky? Hell yes. Is it because I'm not a trained businessman that I'm really not bothered? Probably. Or is it because I'm a bit psychopathic when it comes to planning? I don't know. But fuck it. Here it goes. Now, what do I call this thing? No idea. Oh shit. We have a client. This thing's real. We have a client. So that's literally how this business started. I had no idea what to call this thing. We didn't even know what the business was going to be, which is why we had no idea what to call it. And I didn't really want to call it Daniel Hirschmann Studio. So instead I put an and in the middle of Hirschmann, so it sounds like an accounting practice. Yeah? It makes so much sense when I say it out loud. It still is a problem, but one of those things. Anyway, it's funny. It's funny. So what do we do at Hirsch Mann? We create large and small-scale interactive installations. It's a creative technology company, but really it's about tangible physical experiences. That's where we kind of really live to spend time with our audience. I'm going to give you just 3 projects, 3 different styles of projects before I talk about business number 2. The first one is called Making Music with Red Stripe. So just to watch the video. Audio. That's really good. I can hear it in my mind. Ooh, there we go. Thanks.
Neydi ne? Neymiş? Testing 1, 2.
Right, so you got the idea. We were invited to take the supermarket in East London called the best supermarket, it really was the best, and transform it when somebody grabs a red stripe out of the fridge. So what we had to do was come up with a whole bunch of things that would transform themselves in the right way to be surprising, delightful, wonderful, shareable, capturable by video. Lots of hidden video cameras, of course. So there's our noodle pot shakers. That's what they look like behind, very DIY. Red Stripe is into DIY, plus we had 6 weeks all in for this project, from our prototyping all through to the delivery. It was insane. Those are our xylophone, can xylophones. This is what they look like with the solenoids popping them up. And those are our bottle top trumpets. Ah, the bottle top trumpets. They worked. Everything in there worked. You actually had the song play for you in the space, except for one thing, the very low bass subtone supposedly from the trumpets came from a huge sub hidden underneath one of the shelves. But everything else was perfectly genuine. This was a fun project. It also almost killed us because it was 6 weeks of madness. No budget, viral intentions, you know how it is. Next project, totally different. This was a 2-year-long project. The lesson here is time lets you do so much more. And the opportunity was for Weill Cornell Medical University in Upper East Side, Manhattan. They wanted to build a jumbotron in the lobby of their new research building. And what a jumbotron in America is like a baseball stadium style LED screen. We obviously didn't want to do that because they could have just bought an LED screen. And then why are we even talking to them? And so what we ended up coming up with was this concept which involved you standing from the street level seeing a macro view of the whole thing. From the medium position, you start to understand some information that's on this big screen, and when you get even closer, there's even deeper information over there. So the way we did that was by using little iPod Nano LCDs. So those little square LCDs, which we then put behind a lens, does that to the screen. Something quite surprising through that magnification. The other thing to look at is, of course, once you figured out that you want to do that, you then have to figure out how to actually make your own versions of that. So you hack a couple of iPod Nanos, figure out how to control the screen, build your own prototypes. There's our first prototype that shows the difference between the square and the sphere in terms of size. And then you have to build all of them, test them in your office or somebody else's office because we needed space. And then you build it. And and you shoot a time lapse because they're always fun to shoot. And that's what the rendering looked like, and that's what the real thing looks like. And it's a permanent digital art piece. This is there, has been there for 2 years now, and it'll continue being there hopefully for the next 10 plus years. Apparently, by the way, permanent digital art pieces are 10 years plus. I didn't know permanent was only 10 years, but anyway, we'll take it. The cool thing about this project was having so much time, we've actually been able to continue improving it. So we built the front end, we built the hardware, the front end, and we built the back end, the software. And we just continue to make the software better over time because we've learned what it's actually capable of. When you build something for the first time, you sometimes don't know what it can do until you play with it for long enough. It's kind of like what happened when the PlayStation came out. PlayStation came out, you saw an amazing game. 2 years later, the same PlayStation was creating even more games that were more beautiful. Holy shit, more rendered 3D polygons, blah, 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 blah. But it's the same hardware. It's because people spent more time programming them by then. The last project I'll share with you is Google Pop-Up, something that we did that's in between the two sizes of projects. Times of projects. This is something we did last year in Soho, New York. A little video. You get it. Anyway, so we were very lucky to be able to work with our friends in LA called Optimist, and we created these 5 experiences out of the 6 experiences in this pop-up space to celebrate the launch of a whole bunch of hardware products from Google. The first project, I'll only share 3 of them with you right now. The first one was this thing we call the pixel wall, which is basically, that's actually the real thing, just high contrast photograph, which was, let's kill the sound for a second. You get the idea. I'm not going to make you listen to what this thing too much longer. There we go. This is slightly quieter. So, well, do you see what it is? Do I have to explain it? It's a whole bunch of these things that rotated. The servo motors that rotated based on whatever color or specifically what image we were trying to create on this whole thing. And what you don't realize and don't understand by looking at a 2-dimensional video of it is how it, like, the motion drags you in. The changes between the yellow and the green and the green and the red and the red and the blue, they have these amazing gradient effects that you can sort of see on the camera. It's just the most amazing experience. Plus the sound of it is like, yeah, you just want to go hold it for hours. Or maybe that's just me and one of those things. So that was really meant to be about celebrating the brand, the playfulness of Google. The next project we did, which was called the Photosphere, this was really the biggest digital photo frame you've ever seen. It had 218 LCDs, 10.1-inch LCDs, and it was really to celebrate the incredible power of the AI built into Google Photos application. And that's actually my whole photo library over there, all over it. It's quite funny. My friends in New York were like, Daniel, I'm seeing you all over this weird thing in New York. Why? I said, because we needed somebody's photo albums, and I had some. Anyway, it was embarrassing. Point is that what's really cool about this is you have this huge sphere of these photographs that kind of come up as soon as you start using Google Photos. And then when you choose photographs of people, you see all the people. And then let's say you choose a photograph of people and dogs, and then only the photos of people and dogs remain. And then people hugging dogs. And you're like, holy shit, I don't have any pictures of that. Trust me, you probably do have pictures of somebody hugging in the background while there's a dog in the foreground. You'd be very surprised how many strange photos you've got in your library. It looks amazing from the inside. As I mentioned, I'm into sculpture. This is something, I just like the tremendous interior of that thing is just, so special to me. I love that thing. Render on the left, real thing on the right. A little video. I'm not going to make you watch the whole thing because I don't want to lose time. But what was so interesting about this for me was how we built this whole backend that allowed us to generatively create graphics on it across each one, treating each one as its own node, but also connecting them to a whole. And how it controlled the lighting in the whole space was a real surprise to us. The last one I'll share is this one we called Light in the Dark, which was this fiber optic artwork with loads of mirrors, loads of fiber optics, a little bit of projected light. But the idea was to basically celebrate the low light camera of the new Pixel phone. But from our perspective, it was to build this beautiful thing that was like, holy shit, we made that. It was a moment of like complete wonder when we walked into that space. Segway. I don't know how we segue into. This is a hard one to segue into. So, as you see, we have a service company making all sorts of crazy projects, which I'm super proud of, and I'm still surprised that it's even working. But we're a service company that happens to have all this spare time. And so we kind of couldn't help ourselves but think about what else we could do. And so I'm just going to read this really fast. Okay. So we have a few clients, but we also have all this time in between having clients, so we should teach the stuff we're passionate about. There are loads of different physical computing teaching opportunities at various workshop programs or universities. But wait, curriculum doesn't change much or keep up with the technology. Also, Bethany, my then girlfriend, now wife, and I had spent a lot of time talking about how we can help people become more creative with technology as a medium, democratize the stuff we do at Hirsch Mann. What an awesome idea. We should totally go for it. But wait, isn't this another business? I've barely started Hirsch Mann. But then again, so far so good, right? Fuck it, let's do this. Hey Bethany, we want some funding to develop a new product for a business we've just sort of started. Time for you to quit your job and become the CEO? Okay, here we go. Kind of exactly like that. Really, it was like a 5-minute conversation where we decided to change our lives. And that's how we started a company called Technology Will Save Us, or Tech Will Save Us, which is really about introducing youngsters, 4 to 12-year-olds, and honestly their parents and grandparents too, to the future skills that they are going to need to change their worlds. So, sorry, that's the only picture I could think of that had both of us in it. I've already told you all about me. Bethany's background was in branding and innovation. She used to work for a branding company, so she's really aware of the power of brand, and also incredibly talented designer and creative director, and now incredibly talented CEO. She's learnt on the job, let me tell you. A couple of specific stats. 33% of children under the age of 15 can code or program. That's only 33%. Come on, world. We can improve that. 65% of kids in primary school will have jobs that have not yet been invented. I love that statistic. Just think about it. When I was in primary school, I had no idea I'd be doing the shit that we're doing. Like, what a kind of surprising and very delightful outcome. And 90% of parents agree that STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math, skills are crucial to their child's future success. Well, should be 100% as far as I'm concerned. I'm not going to go through all these points, but this is the sort of problem that we're trying to address. 90% of all jobs will require technology in 2020. On the parent side, parents are fearful and do not see tech as a creative tool. All very true things. Please take a photo and read these things later because they actually are really relevant. I'm not just trying to sell you stuff. I'm trying to tell you, you've got to take care of your kids. Young people, kids today, kids are just born fearless automatically. They are the most incredibly fearless, imaginative, spectacular creatures. Like, if you don't have one, borrow a friend's. No, I'm serious, like, love kids. Anyway, and we should learn from them because we've forgotten a lot of that fearlessness and that confidence and that just willingness to express and test and try. We've all that's been sort of slammed out of us through homework or jobs. So we've built this business off the shoulders of giants. Seymour Papert, super awesome, invented a logo. Jean Piaget, also just amazingly important thinker in the psychology of learning. And Maria Montessori. My wife's mom actually started a Montessori school, so it's kind of built into the DNA of us and our business. So what will technology save us from? Guys, not Skynet. Don't worry, it's not like that. But it's all about technology not being neutral in our lives. And it's really about having tech will save us from homework, from allowing kids to play. It'll save us from brushing our teeth in a really boring way. But the important thing is that technology is here to stay in our lives, and we might as well learn how to use it as a tool for creativity. So we have a bunch of products in the range. I'm not going to talk specifically about that. As I said, this is not meant to be a sales pitch. But the important thing is that we're creating physical digital experiences. We have an online platform. We have apps. We have all these sorts of things that are expected in the digital world. But the whole point of those digital tools is to take you from the digital into the physical. You get something like this. You can see on the table outside, I've got a couple of things over there. We've got some workshops on Saturday, I think, with 2 of our products for kids and their parents. But this over here is an activity. It's meant to be about movement and play. So kids are learning through the play that they're busy doing anyway, and that's the best way to learn because they don't feel like they have to do it for somebody else. They're doing it for themselves. You learn to program 8 RGB LEDs with this using a motion sensor and your computer. It's simple as that. You do it on the digital world, but you then take it and play in the physical world. We have an online platform for this thing. It's called Make, which is very important. That's where the digital learning takes place. So I'm not going to go through that right now. And of course, some of the things that kids have made, that's Isaac's toothbrush trainer. He programmed it to prove to his mother that he brushes his teeth for 2 full minutes. He brushes for 2 minutes, and after 2 minutes, rainbow lights. See, Mom, I brushed my teeth. No more questions. I'm not going to tell you any more of that. I just don't want to waste too much more time on talking about this because I want to talk about lessons. So this is the new normal. Ah, yes, I love saying this. Kids as digital creators, not just consumers of technology. This is the thing that we're really aspiring to sort of help kids, parents, and the people that love kids make sure that this happens in their lives, right? So talking about the product business, you've already seen that this is you can already see just the way I presented it. It's a very different kind of experience. It's a focused, branded experience. And the service business, Hirsch Mann, we're kind of hired guns in some respect, right? We have time to work on other people's ambitions, which I think is really an interesting kind of combination. But they both have some common lessons in both of these types of businesses. The first one is gaps are all opportunities. Now, I'm sure this is an obvious thing to say out loud, but every successful business is a business that has somehow discovered that there is something missing in what they need, and instead of waiting for somebody else to fill it, they decide to fill it themselves. Every single gap is an opportunity, and I think as an accidental entrepreneur, what I've actually realized is what I'm really interested in discovering is where the gaps are. Unfortunately, I also want to fill them all, and I just don't have enough time in the day, and so I'm just going to focus on these for now. Know yourself. This is probably one of the most important. You've got to be honest with yourself about what you're awesome at and what you can and want to improve. Right? Don't think you can do everything. Be honest with yourself. Don't think that he can do everything. Don't think that she can do everything. Know what they can do. It's very, very important that you understand how to lean on each other in the right way and where your limitations are. This leads into this one. Skills can be learnt. Skills are not the same thing as talents. If you're just good at something naturally, congratulations, I'm proud of you. That's amazing. But you can learn skills. You just have to have the discipline to sit down and actually do it. Going back to the previous point, do you really want to do it? That's super important. Knowing you can and actually doing are two very different things. Trust. Once you've been to battle, you know the mettle of your colleagues. I love saying that. But the truth is, when we did that Red Stripe project and we were up for 2.5 straight days without sleep, boy, do you know how to trust each other after that. Unless everything goes pear-shaped and maybe there's no trust left. But in our case, it really worked out. That it's really important to be able to trust your colleagues. And this leads into conflict. You trust each other now, we know, we've already agreed. So you might as well be honest and get the shit on the table so you can deal with it. I'd much rather hear from somebody the truth about how idiotic I've been or what a terrible decision I've made so that we can nip it in the bud and I can become a better leader than not find out and just continue being an idiot, right? Mistakes, such an obvious one. We always hear about failure. Failure is important. Mistakes teach lasting lessons, but you might as well be open to listening to your own lessons, right? Pay attention to these things. Lean into them. One thing we often talk about is at the end of every single project or product that we've designed at Hirsch Tech Will Save Us, we do a wins and lessons session. What were the wins? What were the lessons? What are we proud of? Pat each other on the back. But what the hell did we just learn? Holy shit, that's the important stuff. Leadership. Oh, guys, everybody is a leader. Everybody. The guy who cleans your office, he's a leader. How so? He represents himself. He represents his company. He represents his family. Everybody should treat themselves as a leader. Because if they don't, how will they ever sort of actually end up leading people in a particular way? And that's it. Thank you very much for your time and for your ears and your eyes. Have a lovely rest of your conference. I'll be around. Bye.